Good. Thank you for coming, everybody. We are Mind Plus Neurology. We're a headache and migraine clinic. We have 2 locations, one in Mequon, Wisconsin, and one in Appleton, Wisconsin. Today, we are talking about balance and balance awareness. First of all, I'd like to introduce Kari. Kari Hart is our occupational therapist. You've been doing that work since 2010. And you're also specialized in vestibular.
Another year, that makes me feel old. The years keep going. I don't know how that happens.
Oh my goodness. It's a good thing though. You have so much experience under your belt. And we really appreciate that. Specializing in vestibular therapy, which does have to do specifically with balance. And so balance awareness is kind of your jam, I think.
Of course, yes. Yes, near and dear to any therapist's heart, right? Keeping everybody balanced.
That's right. Okay, awesome. So let's pop forward then, Kari, to the next slide.
Okay.
So this slide shows about VIDA. So they are celebrating National Vestibular. So the VIDA stands for Vestibular Disorders Association, and they have established this week as Balance Awareness Week. So from the 14th to the 20th is their time to shine a light on individuals that are battling dizziness, vertigo, imbalance, and they are working towards making those people's lives better. And their goal this week is to make a lot of noise to shine that light on those folks, to raise awareness and also funds for their research efforts. So if you'd like to learn more about them, go to vestibular.org/BAW. For probably for Balance Awareness Week. That's my guess.
Oh. Ding.
Good guess. Okay, so the next slide, another thing that's really exciting that's happening this week. Tomorrow is Concussion Awareness Day. So that's this Friday. So the National Concussion Awareness Day is recognized each year on the 3rd Friday of September. And you can become a Concussion Awareness Now champion by going to concussionawarenessnow.org. And in doing so, they give you a ton of resources and tools, and you can also sign up for their newsletter to stay up to date on the latest news and updates coming out related to concussion. So that's cool too, and that's exactly what we're going to be focusing on today in our wellness workshop, talking about both balance and concussion. So
yeah, this is our third year doing this wellness workshop.
Third year, yeah.
So yeah, here we go. So thank you, Tracy, for the send-off.
Thank you for joining us today.
Yeah. So most of you know me. I am Kari. I'm the occupational therapist, as Tracy said, or one of them here at Mind Plus. I've been here since they opened, so it's been a really fun journey the last few years doing all this and getting to know everybody and helping everybody out. And yeah, concussion, vestibular training, that has been really fun for me to dive into and learn a lot about myself along with my patients. And yeah, it's just been a really good ride. And I guess, I don't know, to talk about me on the outside at home, I guess, I don't know, I don't really love talking about myself, but I have 4 kiddos, so that probably sums it up. It eats up a lot of my time. From one going into high school and one going into 4K. So I got 2 ends of the spectrum. They keep me very busy. And other than that, I guess you guys are my hobby too. So, okay, let's get started. So I wanted to kind of kick off by talking about balance in general and how our brains and our bodies, since we're, like a neurological clinic, how our brains can help us stay balanced in general and how that happens. Because if you don't know where to start, you don't know how to fix your, new problem, which if you have a concussion or a vestibular issue, then that's, would be a new problem in your balance. So how you stay balanced every day, let's check that out. So, how your brain finds equilibrium, just another fancy term for finding balance and being in balance. You probably hear people say that quite often. So basically, your body and your brain uses all these different systems to help you with all of this. And your brain relies on all these signals and all of these things that your brain gives feedback for, and then your brain makes sense of it and kind of spits it out, and then your body does what your brain is telling it to in a very, very short sense. But in a longer sense, so equilibrium uses these large systems, and which is called a sensory system, right, is comprised of several subset systems. So you don't only have just this really big system, you have all these small systems within a large system that give feedback to your brain. So it gets a little confusing. So the visual, obviously, what we see, right? Like your vision gives your brain cues about where you are in space. If your room is tilting, if you're moving forward, if you're moving backward, what you see is what you get, right? Is what your brain gives you. And if you just had that, we hear a lot of, I have a lot of patients that visually get very taxed, and it's hard, and that gives a bounce that when other systems aren't working because your vision is only part of the system. So just relying on that alone isn't enough. So then we have this metasensory system, which is, tells the brain what's happening within your body, around your body, touch, and proprioception. So like hot, cold, if you're grounded on the floor, if you're standing on something hard, soft, like where are you in space, right? So that gives that feedback to your brain. And then, so that's kind of whole body sense. And then we move on to vestibular system, which is, located in your inner ear. That picture we have here on the screen is showing that. So, because that is kind of my favorite part of all of this is the vestibular system. That, senses movement in general, and specifically movement of your head, because it's in your ear, right? It's all kind of related. So it tells us which direction your head's moving, the speed it's moving, where are we headed? So if this isn't working right and your brain has to rely on your eyes, now you're not getting the whole picture and your brain just says, okay, I give up. I'm just going to be dizzy and fall over. So, and that's what you get, unfortunately. And that information again sent to the brain through the central nervous system, because your brain is that control center. It takes all that input and then sends signals to the rest of your body and your muscles and everything to adjust you to keep you upright. So, yeah. So your brain, in summary, it's a combination of all this input to keep us going and walking and moving forward. It's something we don't really think about day to day when we're doing okay. Okay, so going into the vestibular system a little bit further, because like I said, this is my favorite part, so you'll have to listen to me talk about it a little bit more. The vestibular system's job, as I said earlier, is to kind of tell us, right, what movement, what speed, where is your head moving, and give those signals to the brain. So when there's damage or dysfunction in your inner ear, maybe through a virus that you had recently, specific vaccines that can happen, not usually, but it can happen, but usually it's viral or, sometimes just through aging or whatever else happens in your body. Then that can cause a balance problem. So it's a complex system like everything else in our body. And so it has a lot of impact through your brainstem when it's not working right? Because those signals can't get across quite the way they want it to happen. So it'll have this brain processing interruption, right? Which will have interruption in your spatial processing, your balance control. There's tiny little structures in here, which are called like semicircle canals. Those three little canals are kind of important. They also help you with this directional movement. One of them telling direction left and right, another one telling direction up and down, looking in different ways. So if one of these canals is interrupted, then you'll have specific issues going in that certain direction. So they'll, rotation looking, and these otolith organs that are also in here. They sense linear movement, so linear movement and gravity. So moving forward, driving a car, how fast am I moving in a car? Am I going forward? Am I going backward? Tilting, those kinds of things. So that'll help, again, like reiterating this, I guess, a million times, the information goes to your brain, and it helps stabilize your vision, because then your vision and your brain can get all those informations and everybody can coordinate together and keep your posture upright. So in large, it's responsible for, your proprioception of the world, and it can be a big problem solver for you. Let's go, next one. So next system that I had outlined, earlier in how your brain finds equilibrium on this slide, somatosensory. So within this system is that smaller subset system is proprioception. So through a network of these neural structures, it produces the perception of touch. So temperature, body position, and pain is included within those sensory nerves, and this visual auditory stimulation then gets processed when it happens and goes through that, and this system helps to process all that. So it recognizes objects, discriminate textures, right? You're feeling something soft or hard. That's the system that's going to tell you, like, oh, I'm touching a teddy bear versus, a cactus. Give you that motor feedback and exchange those social cues. So then proprioception within somatosensory isn't necessarily temperature, touch, and all that, but that's part of that system that allows your brain ability to know where your body parts are without knowing where to look. So even with your eyes closed, your proprioception should be able to keep you upright. So even if you take away part of those other systems, this should still kick in. So, so it's critical. It tells you where your feet are contacting with the ground, if it's stable, if it's uneven, if you're walking up a ramp, if you're not, where your joints and your muscles are. So it's the constant feedback. It'll be constantly sending to your brain because we're always moving, right? So it has to change quickly. So it has to keep up with all that. So if you step on a rock, or in my house, a Lego, you'll instantly tell your body that you do something about this or you're going to fall forward. And when it's not working correctly, then you might actually fall forward. Okay, next. So then that's the central nervous system, right? So this is what I've been talking about all along, is the brain, right? Central nervous system is comprised of your brain and your spinal cord. So that acts as your control center, like the big command center that takes it all and gathers the information from the vestibular, visual, and somatosensory systems, and it processes it, compares it, decodes it, does all the computer work, and then it spits it out to the rest of your muscles and at rapid signals here and there to every single muscle in your body, telling it to do this. So if you are walking and you go up a ramp, then that signal has to be, okay, we're going up a ramp. You better speed up or slow down or, lean forward, or you're going to go backward. So, so it's the interpreter, the coordinator. It makes all the sense of that sensory input to direct your body's response for whatever's happening around it. All right, so now getting into Balance Awareness Week and vestibular disorders. This slide just names a ton of them, right? Like most of these are specific vestibular disorders. BPPV, vestibular migraine, some of you maybe have heard or had some of those. We see those in this clinic, triple PD, some of that. So some of these may be familiar, and then there's not outlined in here is obviously a ton more that can affect your balance, like having a stroke, being diabetic even any change, right, within any of the systems is going to cause balance problems. So I have highlighted on here, damage due to head or injury or concussion, which is where we're going to focus on the rest of the time. So concussion is not fun, right? No one wants it, but we're going to kind of take a look at that and, look at what happens to your brain and how it affects your balance. Okay, so first of all, broadly, what is a concussion, right? It's when the brain moves inside your skull suddenly, which ultimately, not allowing normal function. So it's called mild, like a mild TBI. You'll hear that, right? Because it's usually not life-threatening, but it can be significant, right, to the person that has it happen. So, you'll because of this movement in your brain, it can have all kinds of symptoms, right? That like are very unpleasant for everybody. So if your brain is like a soft jelly inside your shell, or if you think about, like anything inside something soft inside something hard, and if you get in a car accident or a sudden jolt, or you fall during a sports injury, that soft jelly moves quickly and it can't, all the other structures that are trying to keep it safe can't quite keep up with what's happening. So it stretches and damages it and, moves hard back and forth quickly, which can change how your brain cells communicate for a while because of all the jarring. It has to kind of figure out what happened to it. So concussion can happen with or without loss of consciousness. So like a smaller amount happen with a brief loss of consciousness, but a lot of people usually stay awake through it. That doesn't mean you can't have any more or less, bothersome symptoms. So like, falling, not that one fall is worse than another. Like if you fall on the ice, in winter, or having a soccer ball to your head, a car crash, that happens in everyday activities. So it, not that you all have to be like worried that you're always going to fall and hurt your head, but it's good to be aware that it can happen. So next, let's look at the symptoms that you can experience after this happens to you. So physically, just looking first at the screen, there's, physical symptoms, there's symptoms inside your brain, there's the balance symptoms, which was the focus here, and then like emotional issues, like mental emotional issues that you have because of what's happening to you. So physically, headache is the most common symptom. So, another reason why that is like a great place for people to come is here is that we can kind of look at you in a bunch of different angles, right? So, nausea, feeling worn out, being bothered by bright lights, loud sounds, kind of all these similar symptoms that people with headache and migraine have, right? So being irritated by all that. And then which can affect your thinking as well. These all kind of play in each other, right? You might find it hard to focus, follow conversations, remember recent events. You can't quite put it together. A lot of people, or a lot of my patients, talk about brain fog. Brain fog is like a big two-word phrase that I hear constantly. Like, is your brain fog getting better or worse? Like, how is that, and how is it affecting you? So these tasks, like your brain fog can affect the tasks that you're doing every day. They can make you feel like you're kind of slowing down, everything's in slow motion. It's harder to just complete tasks in general. And then balance and vestibular. So that's key here, right? We're talking about balance for Balance Awareness Week. You can feel dizzy, which is a kind of a main complaint, right? Brain fog, dizzy, spinning or unsteady when you're walking. You might feel worse with head movement, usually can be a trigger, or when you're moving through busy places, crowded places, like stores, places that have like really busy tile can be frustrating for people. And like hard with things coming at you, right? So it's not just that the place or where you are is crowded and it's busy and that's all coming at you, but then now you have like locating objects and now having to think through what the task is that you're doing. So it's a lot to pack in. So while all these symptoms are happening, your brain is trying to make sense of it, like we said earlier, and your inner ear and your vestibular system is trying to control you while you're off and out in the world, and which at the end of the day, if you can't complete your task, and it gets very, very frustrating, right? Because now everything you do is affected, which can now affect you emotionally, which can affect your food, your mood, your sleep. Like there's so many issues that can be highly affected more in this area, right, than the rest of them, because if you're not feeling good here, the rest of it suffers, vice versa. So this can like completely affect someone's recovery if like this emotional part of the recovery process isn't taken into account and isn't being, really looked at. So, like I'm talking a lot of bad things, right? Like no one like wants to feel this way, but reassuringly, if this would ever happen to you or has happened to you or you have experience with it, you might know that the symptoms vary really widely to everyone out there. It can change even from day to day. You might have really good days, really bad days, but if you know that you're having better good days than bad days, you know that like progression is happening and there's some kind of light at the end of the tunnel that your brain can figure it out. It can heal. Our bodies do wonderful things for us and they can figure it out eventually with the help of me and everyone else around you. So, but, obviously, if that doesn't happen, then you're going to seek advice from us. From here, let's see, specifically going to the balance part of concussion, let's see how that concussion is directly related to balance issues. So, why are you off balance and why are you dizzy specifically after having a concussion? So, kind of reiterating again, like kind of a lot of repeating, but important things, is that your inner ear, your vestibular system that we talked about earlier is in a wide sense disrupted, like widely disrupted, right? Through a ton of different reasons. But since that sense is the movement and your head position, then that's disrupted and those signals aren't happening the way that you want them to. Visual system changes. So again, all of this, going back to that first slide, basically every system that helps you keep balance is now affected. So it's no wonder that then you feel off balance. So your visual system, hard to see where you're going, that brain fog. Some people get foggy vision in general, and like visual fatigue can be common, which is hard, right? And then you feel like you need to lay down, calm that system down so that you can keep going, which is okay. So your proprioception, so your awareness of where you are, reduced awareness of where your limbs are, right? Like how fast they're going, like what's happening to them, what surface are they on, like, and then your brain processing system, you're more confused. The signals are coming in at different times, different ways. You're trying to decipher them and you're trying to figure out where you are. So now, it gets a little bit harder with all this confusion going on, which then goes back to that emotional side of it, where you get a little overloaded, right? And then it's hard to like really get where you're going because then you just get frustrated and we go from here and how do we make all that better for you? So, concussion related balance problems treated. So now we know we have all these balance problems. We talked about why we were balanced in general, how now we have a head injury and we're off balance and now we're frustrated about it. And now what are we going to do about it? This is all leading up to how do I solve my problem? I know I have a problem now and I'll fix it. So there, you got to always start with education, right? Like what I'm doing right now. So start by knowing why you have a problem can actually sometimes be half the battle because it can be really frustrating to have an issue and not know why it's happening to you. So just by putting those pieces together can really help someone like, okay, like this is workable. I can do it. So knowing how it's happening can help you like avoid things that maybe symptoms make it worse. Sometimes you need to like grade yourself and go into those things, but it's also okay to avoid things if you need to get through your life, right? Bright screens, busy stores, loud environments, just enter that slowly. Sleeping, hydration, it's all very important. Not it's and just by avoiding those, we don't want to avoid them completely. Like I said, you want to do it sometimes. You don't want you to be in bed, right? You have a concussion, don't sleep for days. That's actually worse for you. It's just all about avoiding symptom overload, just like those with migraine, right? You guys know that you have all these systems, like all these symptoms, I mean, that like are coming and triggering your migraines, and it's just all about like reducing those to a more manageable position for you so that you can live the rest of your day or and go through and and be functional, right? Graded aerobic exercise. You should be doing light activity. You know, they always say like rest, rest used to always be the thought, but that's not quite the thought anymore. Obviously, 48 hours is kind of the thought on rest time, and then you need to get up, get moving, gradually increase that slowly, right? And walking, stationary bike speed, it can speed your recovery time actually faster than just laying in bed, is what we're finding. So it's all about working with your provider, finding these low intensity sessions that we can gradually work to get you moving through your life. And then doing vestibular rehab, right? Coming to see me and working with that vestibular system, moving your head, looking at targets, all that kinds of stuff. Even working on your neck. I know that was in a prior slide. I kind of dipped over it, but neck pain, all that can happen, right? When you hit your head, and we can work on that too. Okay, so after we find what's wrong with you, what are we going to do? I just touched on neck, right? We can do some manual therapy to help you for your neck. We can work on that vestibular rehab, right? To just keep you going, do that, keep you focused, standing on different surfaces, kind of really just challenging the system in general to make it work for you in a graded, safe way. And using that, like team approach, we work with everybody, maybe put in some medications that you need. They're not all bad, right? You need a little bit of everything to help you through, to help you with your nausea and manage the headaches that are coming with that. So let's kind of we're going to go into some exercises too specifically through us, but through here and as being in rehab, part of your care team, I just kind of ended on the team approach, right? That we all are working together. And if a concussion would happen, then obviously we're here for that recovery plan. We are now doing walk-in concussion clinic, which is new to us, and I think new to pretty much anywhere, like kind of like walk-in urgent care for migraine, right? Like we're kind of the first in step for that. So now we want to be first in step for handling concussion, because we know that in general concussion can happen and there might not be a lot of resources, especially for the younger crowd, for where to get help after. So if you think that you have had a concussion, you can call us and we can direct you what to do next. So, and what to do next, all of the examples of things that you are going to be doing here with me. And we do that by doing the gaze stabilization, focusing, moving our head side to side, checking with your symptoms along the way, working on that eye teaming, objects in front of you, close to you. Peripheral is a really hard thing for those with concussions. So working on your peripheral vision and how to kind of work with your brain to expose you to those safely so that you can not have so much symptom provocation with everything that's going on in your life. Kind of dull the symptoms down so that in time, your brain accepts that you can do these things that you used to do again, and you can progress, and eventually it'll get easier and easier and easier. And then you can return to work and play safely, just like you used to do, is the goal, right? So kind of tried to speed it up there at the end because I felt like, oh, I'm really talking a lot here and where our time is up, but I will stop talking now.
It's all good. We appreciate all the information. I had a question about those exercises you were talking about at the end, the different types of therapies that you do with patients.
Yeah.
And that's not just for folks that have suffered a concussion. That's for folks that also have imbalance issues.
Yep. It's a lot of these are kind of what we call like traditional vestibular rehab exercises. So a lot of that can kind of overlap, right? Like having an inner ear dysfunction or anything vestibular or any balance, like these are kind of great go-tos in general. So yes, the answer is yes.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
I just find it fascinating, the vestibular system in general, like how small it is when
Yeah.
you look at that bigger
And
picture.
how big of a problem it creates,
How
which is,
complicated it
yeah,
is.
I know. That's why I like it. It is why I
Because
focus on it a lot. And
all
like,
of these canals and little tubes and like, oh my goodness,
and they all have a job.
they all have a job.
Yeah, I know.
It's
The body is
fascinating.
a crazy thing, right? And that's just saying us. Here we are. We are here at both locations to help you out with all of your headache and now concussion needs. Call us anytime, right? Or tell your friends. Don't tell your friends to get a concussion and then call, but tell your friends if they do.
If they do have a concussion, we can be a helpful resource for them. And of course, headache and migraine. Folks that are struggling with that, we're here for them too.
So, yay! Thanks, guys, for listening.
Thanks for being a part of it. We appreciate you.
Have a good day.